Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the August regular meeting of the Clay County Board of Education. We'll go ahead and get started if that's okay, and I'll do that by asking Mr. Caldwell if he wouldn't mind to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our flag's not on there. Had that cleaned up or something? When they
There you go. All right, we'll get together later. Maybe the state of North Carolina will forgive us. Attention. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jones, would you mind reading the mission statement for Clay County Schools, please?
The mission of Clay County Schools is to build high-quality learning environment that ensures all students learn at a high level.
Just a couple of announcements. We'll read through those real quick. The next regular board meeting will be September the 26th at 6 o'clock here in the boardroom. We're also excited. There's going to be a dedication for the new flagpole, and Miss Gibson memorial dedication will be at that new flagpole September the 9th from 8:30 to 9:30. And just as a note, all board members are invited to attend that as well.
Dr. Shook, just a correction there. It's 8:30 to 9 o'clock.
8:30 to 9. Okay.
Typo. 8:30 to 9 o'clock. Now, it won't last an hour. Sorry about that.
That's all right. And then this will be followed by former NASA astronaut Ron Duran speaking to the students from the middle school and the high school in the high school gym from 9:15 to 10:15. And board members are invited to attend that as well. And both events are sponsored by the American Legion Post and donations from the community. The Clay County Board of Commissioners also helped pay for that flagpole as well in Miss Gibson's memory. So next, I will entertain a motion that we approve the agenda as it was emailed to you and as it's presented in front of you.
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Ms. Beck. Mr. Caldwell, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And next we have our public comment section, and just a reminder that there is a 3-minute time limit per speaker on that. And we'll start that with Scott and Maggie from LS3P.
Got to center up there.
So we can be on camera.
How are y'all? I'm Scott Donald with LS3P Architects.
I'm Maggie Carnival.
We were here on July the 28th for an interview, and we were selected as the architect for the new Hayesville Intermediate School replacement project. And we just wanted to come here and thank the board and the Clay County or Hayesville people for believing in us, and we're ready to get started as soon as you all are. And we really love Hayesville, so we're looking forward to this higher education project and to meet your vision and goals.
Thank you. Yeah. You said it all.
Do y'all have any questions while we're here?
Members of the board, I will share with you that the proposal of contract was emailed to me by LS3P today. I forwarded that on to your board attorney so that he could kind of take a look at that first, and then of course I'm sure he'll find something that needs to be tweaked, and,
sure.
And then I'll bring it to your attention probably at the next board meeting.
Thank you, folks.
Appreciate y'all and y'all believing in us, and we're ready to do a good job for you.
Thank you. We're excited. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next we have Mr. Overland from the high school.
Gotta get in close.
Okay.
Good evening, Clay County. I just wanted to take a moment tonight to introduce our new assistant principal at the high school. Her name is Carissa Teague. Carissa started on July 1st, so she's been at it almost 2 months now and hasn't left us yet. She's actually doing a great job. I love her style. I think the teachers and the students and our families are really going to connect with Ms. Teague. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Just thank you guys. I'm excited to be here. It's very welcoming. I felt right at home ever since July 1st. Actually, before July 1st. So thank you, and I'm excited to work with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Miss Johnny Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in light of all the crazy things that have been happening in schools, I'm very concerned about Hayesville. And I am wondering whether or not you have given any consideration to having another SRO. We have a school system that is spread a long way, and I think we need somebody else in the elementary school. I'm hopeful that you guys will consider this, and it's better to be proactive and do something before something really bad happens. And over in Blairsville, we had a crazy situation, and I don't want that to happen here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what's your name? Johnny Walker Rose.
Next, we'll move into the reports section of our agenda, and we have the Participate Learning and Uniting Our World Through Global Leaders, Mr. Freeburg McKinney.
Yes, members of the board, just while Mr. McKinney is walking up, one of the things the leadership team has been discussing over the last year and a half is sort of having a theme for our instruction, K-12. Research shows that when you have a thematic side to your instruction in the classroom, in a district or in a school, it's a great way to create more engagement by the students. And it's something that you can weave throughout your subject areas and your grade levels with each standard course of study and kind of bring them all together and give the learning more of a purpose. Some of the themes that we've considered, one is STEM. Obviously, we have a STEM teaching position that is a grant-based position at the middle school. Gear Up has done some work with STEM at the middle school. And so we had considered that as a possible theme, which would mean that we would look at all of our subject areas and grade levels and try to incorporate STEM activities and STEM thought, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, in our classrooms as a theme. Another theme we considered is entrepreneurship. Obviously, in a county like ours, probably 80% of our economy is based on small business owners. The largest employers are Clay County schools and Clay County government. And then after that, it's mostly small business owners. So entrepreneurship is huge in rural communities. You can teach entrepreneurship beginning with kindergartners. And working your way through high school and having a theme throughout of always thinking about how can I find problems, find a solution that allows me to make money doing it. That's entrepreneurial thinking. And then a third theme that we considered was just citizenship. Now there's local citizenship, there's state citizenship, there's United States citizenship, and there's global citizenship. So obviously, again, that is a theme that you can carry throughout social studies classes, English classes, math classes, art, music, all subject areas. You can tie in to activities that teach our students what it means to be a citizen of the world, our country, our state, and our local community. Participate Learning is a relatively new company that Freebird's a former North Carolina Teacher of the Year, by the way. And he has recently taken a position with Participate Learning, which is a company that focuses on this kind of work. We also partner with Gear Up, which is a federal grant a multi-million-dollar grant that we've had for quite some time. Through Gear Up and through the passion of Miss Ginger Sherry, our Teacher of the Year at Hayesville Middle School, last year we started an enrichment program focused on global citizenship and learning about that as an after-school program at the middle school. And it just took off. I would say it met, every Wednesday?
Every Monday and Wednesday, and we had 40 to 60 kids stay after both days after school for an hour.
So, and they were getting nothing out of that other than the learning they were getting. They were not getting grades. There was no incentive other than they enjoyed what they were doing. And so that kind of gave us the idea to start thinking about, well, maybe if we're looking for this theme, citizenship might be the thing that our students are interested in. So I asked Freebird tonight, we've discussed this, we haven't committed to anything, but it would be sort of a partnership between Hayesville Middle School, our Gear Up program, and Participate Learning, with Gear Up funds paying for it. But we feel like we could maybe put together a pretty solid partnership and pilot it at the middle school and see how it goes. And if it goes well and the students get really engaged, it might be something in the future that we expand to the high school, the elementary school, and the primary school. But tonight, I've asked Freebird to just present kind of what we've discussed as possibility. This is not on the action agenda. This is purely for consideration for the public and for the board. And then we would just kind of let things go after tonight for a month and see what kind of feedback the board gets, and then maybe make a decision on whether the board approves of us moving forward with this partnership or not at the next board meeting. Freebird?
All right. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm thrilled to be back in Hayesville. This is my fourth time actually now, so in 3 different roles. So as Superintendent Cole mentioned, I was the 2018 State Teacher of the Year. I was a world history teacher, so you can see my passion for global education. And then I was honored to serve as the Director of Government and Community Affairs for the state of North Carolina, which is relatively a lobbyist for North Carolina Public Schools, and also an ambassador to lift up incredible solutions to challenges that our districts are facing across the state. And during that time, I think one of the most important challenges that I was looking at and really trying to figure out solutions to solve was school culture climate. How do we find a unifying force that really brings together staff and students and community? And fortunately, Ginger has really kind of set this up as an idea that we've really latched onto and decided to present on tonight. So the name of this is Uniting Our World Through Global Leaders. I now work as the Participate Learning Director of Partnership Development. I came across this B Corp during my time as the Director of Community and Government Affairs. And I am going to change one thing that Superintendent Cole said. We're actually a company that's been in existence for about 35 years.
Okay.
We did change our name, so we were formerly VIF, which VIF brought over J1 Cultural Exchange teachers and has for 35 years through a U.S. State Department initiative. And then we continue to add on initiatives, particularly what I'd like to share with you today, which is Global Leaders Program. You also may know of us with dual language immersion programs across the state. And as you can see from this graphic, we're missing partnerships in the northwest and the west part of our state. So we're very much centered around that central part of our state, particularly the north central region, Piedmont Triad region, and down in the southwest region. And through some conversations with Mary and Gear Up, we really thought that this would be a unique opportunity to provide global education opportunities to the Northwest and the West, particularly here in Clay County. The initial kind of part of this presentation, I wanted to focus on kind of what the framework is, because I want us to be very clear that this is not a program. It is not something that we bring in that has boxed curriculum and resources and the expectations are that the teachers teach this curriculum and do this. It's a framework integration. So it's a mindset perspective shift that allows our teachers to teach through a global lens and perspective. North Carolina was just ranked the #1 place again to start a business. And we've continued to work on how do we amplify our economic prowess with what we provide opportunity-wise for our students in public schools. And we feel like this is an incredible synergy between what we need our students to develop as, and I love this new thing, and Mary and I were talking about this earlier, is that the CTE pathways, we can teach skills. That's something that we're as a state, we're getting, profoundly good at teaching CTE pathways, college and career readiness. But what a lot of our businesses and our industries are saying is we need competencies. We need workforce development skills, what we call soft skills or durability skills. How do we grow that and nurture that in our students throughout a student's life cycle? As it's really hard to take, someone who's really good at electrical work as a junior in high school, but to develop those skills like communication and flexibility and critical thinking skills. So these are something that we feel like the Global Leaders Framework really does. It creates the competencies as the currency for workforce development and industry alignment. We do that through several ways. The first is we work with a team, so it would be Missy, potentially Ginger, and Mary to align with what the school's strategic plan is. So what their SIT team already sees as a unifying force. Then we take those global competencies that I'll share with you here in a second and integrate that framework through already existing programs that might be PBIS, might be SEL, might be action-based learning. All of these are already existing programs that this framework really integrates with. So you can see here some of those integration resources that we provide, whether that's PBIS integration. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm doing it on mine and not yours. Sorry. The PBS integration resource, so we really look at school-wide behavior expectations and build out a model that looks at students and how they pay attention, how they feel connected, and how they take action. I think one of the most important things is a lot of people, when they hear global, they go directly to international. But that's not exactly what global thinking is. Global thinking is allowing students these opportunities right here. It could be something as simple as when they're paying attention, what are the rules and the procedures and the expectations? How are they listening to others in the classroom, communicating? How are they asking questions when they don't understand? That core communication competency. But it could also be something as simple as when you make a mistake, apologize or ask for help when you need it. These are all competencies as our students progress from kindergarten all the way up through high school. A framework like this could help support. Another way that we see this being extremely valuable, and we've seen this across the state, is in SEL alignment. So as we're looking at self-awareness and self-management and social awareness and relationship skills, responsible decision-making, how are we providing opportunities for our students to actualize those competencies? And it's not just a character trait of the month where we're focusing on communication this month, but integrated ways that our teachers can help to facilitate this process and this growth in students. These are the 4 global teaching practices. So as we're looking at connecting students to the world, building relevance, promoting student agency, creating inclusive classrooms. As North Carolina continues to change, it is so important for us as teachers to provide these opportunities for our students to actualize themselves in these 4 categories. And we do that, I think this is the most important slide in the presentation, through these global competencies. And as you can see here, they're skills that oftentimes I feel like in today's society we expect our students to know and to come to us having. Communication, flexibility, empathy, critical thinking. I think all of us in here realize that this has fallen on public schools to really help facilitate this growth. We have become, in many cases, the core place where a lot of these competencies are learned, and we feel like this integration really helps with that. Again, that pay attention, feel connected, take action. We also do that through sustainable development goals, so allowing students to actualize these competencies through project-based learning, through whether or not it's taking local water samples and doing comparisons of that, getting them out in the community and really seeing themselves, again, going back to what Superintendent Cole said, as an active citizen. The framework sets up in several ways. It sets up in face-to-face, so there's the opportunity for our program manager to work directly in our schools, but then the professional learning opportunities also takes place asynchronously through a community of practice. So not only are the teachers and the principal building a global leader committee at their own school, but they're directly connected across the state, and we've actually expanded to Virginia, South Carolina, Florida, and Texas. So that network now even grows beyond Clay County, not only in North Carolina, but across the United States and our partner districts. This is what a potential global leaders roadmap might look like. So if a school decides to take on the Global Leaders Program, they would start with that global journey, and as we like to call them, phases. And the beautiful thing about this framework integration is that the principal and the Global Leaders Committee decides the timeline. There is no set timeline. It can go as fast or as slow as the school feels the need to go. So a slow rollout over a year where the professional learning opportunities are taken advantage of, and then the school builds out that vision, that culture, climate, unifying force, which could be global citizenship. This is what an onboarding might look like. So there would be global leader strategy coaches that would come and meet with the school. They would be their program managers throughout the whole process. They would build that global committee, finalize a strategic plan and a collaborative approach, and then we would launch a community-wide global leaders kickoff event, because so much of the community is going to be involved in that, particularly with the action plans that will unfold in many of our community organizations. And then lastly, continue that integration until a school potentially would become a showcase school. I wanted to end today just sharing several statewide initiatives that we're a part of, and I think this is where, as a district like Clay may decide to do this, it folds into some of the larger initiatives statewide that are going on. The first is we are a part of the North Carolina Coalition for Global Competitiveness. We just met actually last week and learned very quickly that Japan is becoming one of our largest trade and economic partners. They just put a Toyota EV battery plant in Randolph County. They've got multiple plants in Alamance, Burlington, and Greensboro, Honda Jet, Honda Engine, and many other Japanese businesses across the state. So how do our students in some of our rural districts, like Caldwell County where Google has been planted, or a Toyota plant in Randolph County, how do those global competencies then transcend into the next initiative, which is that portrait of a graduate? What do we want our students and the competencies they have to look like when they graduate high school? And how do we marry those two and synergize the efforts that we're doing in our classrooms, K through 12, with business and industry alignment? And we believe that those global competencies through the Global Leaders Framework is an incredible way to do that. So I appreciate the opportunity to present tonight to you. Hopefully you can feel my passion and our company's desire to work with you all, and I'd love to entertain questions if there are any.
Any questions or comments? Not yet.
I think for me it's time. I'm more concerned about like the commitment, especially in our middle school, but just having a new principal, I just don't want to add a lot of extra stuff. But you're saying the rollout of this can be as slow or fast or
Correct.
You know.
Yes, ma'am.
But I think that's one of my concerns, and I think we can get those answers once you're saying we're going to present or poll.
Yes, so Ms. Rich wasn't able to be here tonight, but we have discussed that once the board kind of gives approval for this to move ahead in whatever way the middle school chooses to make it happen, then of course it'll be up to Ms. Rich and her staff. A presentation will be made to the whole staff. And look, if they all are just burning up to do it, great. We can do it that way. But it may end up being a smaller group of people that are kind of first adopter types. That's typically how it works, is that there's 10% of any staff that's always willing to jump on something new and try it out. And Miss Sherry is one of those people. And of course, global citizenship and leadership is one of the things she's very passionate about as a former archaeologist. So yes, it may end up being 3 or 4 teachers that kind of pilot this the first semester. And then we try to grow up from there, or I don't know, the entire staff may be just fired up and want to jump in and do it. We'll just have to wait and see. But before we moved any further, I just wanted to put it out there to the public and the board and give y'all a month to think about. We don't want to take on anything new in the first 6 weeks of school.
No.
Yeah.
So Freebird knows better than that.
Yeah, and may I speak to that real quick?
Yes.
I think we would actually want, especially coming out of COVID, and we're now, quote unquote, hopefully going beyond normalcy, but getting back to some, and if you're really trying to transform school culture and climate, that takes time, that takes buy-in. It's definitely not a framework integration that would be successful from a top-down, you got to do this. And so we've had multiple conversations about a slow roll and really, being intentional about a potential unrolling.
And Ms. Rich has been involved in those conversations, so she's, aware of this program, likes the idea of it, and is very much for a slow rollout.
Another reason I was kind of interested in this is there's a history of international travel and learning in Clay County that has kind of fallen by the wayside, I think due to the pandemic, due to some longtime sponsors maybe getting older and their circumstances changing as far as the community. So I just think there's an appetite for this in Clay County that has been in place long prior to me getting here. And so it seems like fertile ground. I heard a phrase one time that resonated with me, which was, think globally, act locally.
That's right.
And the longer things have gone on, the earth is getting flatter. When we get broadband internet in 95% of Clay County, that is going to completely change the job opportunities that are available to our students in the future. And it'll go beyond jobs that they have to have college degrees for. I mean, it'll be jobs that kids can graduate from high school with a job certification and get, where they're actually doing work for an international company from Clay County. But they're still going to have to be a member of a team. They're still going to have to work with people that aren't like them, that didn't grow up like them, that maybe didn't even live in the same country that they did. So, I don't know. This resonates with me as a great opportunity, I think, just me personally, my perspective. And a chance for Clay County to kind of be one of the leading Western region counties as far as looking around the corner and seeing what's in the future, what the possibilities might be for our students. So that was the reason why I wanted the board and the public to consider this as a possible thing.
Yeah, I mean, the benefits of it sounds really good. I'm just more concerned about like the time commitment and stuff, especially just having a new principal and stuff in there.
Sure.
I just want to be conscientious of their time and so forth. So, but Missy and them have been involved, and so I feel comfortable.
Yes. And they wouldn't be forced to do anything.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't think we would.
I mean, I would say probably, if nothing else, Ginger would probably make this a part of her after-school program, probably at a minimum, but I think she's hoping to convince some of her colleagues to join her, so we'll see.
And
It seems to me, excuse me.
That's okay.
It
Go
just
ahead.
seems to me that the ideology, the concepts, and the learning opportunities already dovetail with a lot of what we're already doing.
Yeah.
And the initiatives that we've already started, and I can see how this will work. I'm looking forward to digging into this and seeing,
Great.
Just exactly what,
Absolutely.
how it will work for us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And please, if there's any other further questions, I don't want to take up too much time, but please feel free to reach out to me, and we'll make sure that Mary and Missy and Ginger and Superintendent Cole are all brought in together on any of those questions.
Anything else? Very good. Thank you appreciate your time.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Thank you.
Next we have Miss Angel Owens, Federal Programs Consolidation Report.
Okay, it's time to apply for federal programming funds again. And this is coming up next week. Our actual application is due. We always apply for consolidated funding through Titles 1, 2, and 4. And then we also do a separate application for rural low-income schools. Okay, you should have one handout with all this. Okay. So for Title I PRC 050, that's our Title I basic programs. This is just our primary and our elementary schools. So we have to take that funding, which this year the allotment is $418,473. That does not include any carryover that we might have had left over from last year, but that of course will go to both those schools as well. Our set-asides are for preschool. We pay 30% of 4 of our preschool teachers' salaries, and that's what makes that program a total school program. That way we don't have to split the funding between specific students. It's a total program. It's all funded equally. And then we always put aside $400 for any homeless student needs, and that's a requirement. That's one student allotment for homelessness, and we do have homeless students in Clay County, but we're fortunate to have Teresa Waldrop and the Clay County Community for Students programming that always meets the needs for those students. We might have had to dip into our homeless set aside once or twice in the 8 years that I've been doing this. So, it's just a great program that helps us support those kids. As far as the rest of the Title I funding, that is split between HPS and HES based on their enrollments. And of course, HPS continues to grow day by day. Right now, they are going to be allotted 56.6% of this funding, which the calculation is $241,040. This is going to help us supplement classroom sizes for kindergarten, which now has 6 classrooms, not the 5 that's on this report. The first grade class, there's going to be 8 classrooms. Our second grade will have 5 classrooms. So this will be 100% of the salaries and benefits for 3 teachers to reduce class sizes, and then 45% of the salary and benefits paid for an additional kindergarten teacher. Or maybe we may have to switch that to first grade since there's so many first grades this year. It's traditionally been our kindergarten. At the elementary school, they'll be entitled to 42.4% based on enrollment right now. And there's 4 homerooms for each of grades 3, 4, and 5. 100% of the salaries and benefits are planned to be paid for 2 of those teachers, and then 80% of the salary and benefits for 1 teacher. So that would be one teacher per grade level would receive some type of funding. Their salary and benefits would be paid through this funding. And this just helps us have enough teachers to teach the kids we have. And then there is a lot of for indirect costs. You have any questions about the Title I funding?
Just as a reminder, North Carolina passed a law that set maximum class sizes in K-3 2 years ago, I believe, that caps it at 18 per class. So there is no class size cap in 4th and 5th grade, but we still try to lower class size. We would prefer not to have 30 plus kids in a 4th or 5th grade classroom if we can help it. So we use these federal dollars to help with that, reduce class size.
And that's where that enrollment comes in, and we have to play with the numbers to see where we can allot that money and try to do the best we can to serve all the grade levels in both those schools. Our Title II funding, this is to support effective instruction, and this is a district-wide initiative. This supports all of our administrators, teachers, teacher assistants, anyone that we need to send for any type of training, or if we need to offer initiatives such as stipends to be coordinators for the district or for the schools. Right now, we are using this, I've got to put my glasses back on. $61,848 is the allotment. Of course, there might have been a little bit of carryover, but that what we're planning right now for the actual allotment below is teacher stipends for hours worked the summer months that were not employed for the school improvement meetings. So a lot of our principals ask their school improvement teams to come in during the summer so they can get that preliminary planning taken care of so they can start the year off smooth, and those goals and strategies that they want to use for their school improvement plans are already there in place, and that's based on what their school improvement team came together to decide for that school. Mentor stipends to mentor our beginning teachers. That's very important. We want our new teachers to have support from mentors, from administrators, from their teams. And this is something that we had ended. Well, the state used to pay the mentor stipends, but they quit doing that. And so last year we decided this was an important thing to use PRC 103 Title II funding for, and we wanted to continue that again this year. We offer district and school coordinator stipends for our MTSS, multi-tier system of support coordinators for the district and schools, PBIS, which is positive behavior intervention systems, and then our social emotional learning. So there's a lot of those, and it totals to about $22,000 by the time we pay this out for the entire year. But those people have to put in a lot of time on their own outside of their regular work hours and duties and go to meetings and such and do planning for each of their schools and for the district. So we felt that was important to pay them for that time. Workshop expenses such as registrations, lodging, meals, and travel. We also help pay for teacher certification and licensing fees, and then indirect costs. Do you have any questions about Title II? Okay, Title IV. This is student support and academic enrichment, and this again is a district-wide initiative. This year's allotment is $28,088. We're using this to pay for our behavior tracking software for all schools. This will be the first year we've used it for all 4 of our schools, and I believe this will be a great benefit for us to look at our discipline data, which the state looks at. They've started looking for little things in there to make sure we have equity in our discipline practices, so this will help us see where we might need to make improvements. Our SEL curriculum for the K-12, our social emotional data app, which is the Rhythm app. We do surveys for the students. I believe that's a daily survey they can do now, and that just helps us see where our students are socially, emotionally. If a counselor sees there's a flag, they can go see what that student might need. You know, just keep an eye on the students. This is something that our counselors have said has been a benefit. Our attendance policy and expectation flyers for the K-8 and the high school, and we gave you examples of those in your folders today, I believe. So this year the high school chose to do their own because high school is so very different. So both of those turned out nice. We get those printed locally. We're glad to have those and be able to pass those out to the parents. And then we're also going to use this to create some WIN intervention time informational flyers for the high school. This is the first year that the high school is going to offer a block like this for intervention time at the high school. WIN stands for what I need, correct? And so this, you know, students at the high school are under a lot of pressure anyway. You know, as you get older, that pressure builds. Well, WIN time is going to allow these students to be able to go see their teachers where they need that extra help, or where that teacher thinks the student needs the extra help and support. And that's something that Mr. Overland had started planning last year, and him and Ms. Teague are working on to make that a great kickoff this year and make it a strong program for our students. And these flyers will help parents know what this is, students know what this is, since it is a new initiative. And then again, we'll have indirect costs coming from this fund. Do you have any questions about Title IV? There is one other title program in the consolidated application that we do not accept funding from. We do not apply for that funding. It's less than $6,000, I believe, and the added work that comes with participation, we've just historically chosen not to, and that's for your non-English speakers. We do support our non-English speakers, but this is just an added piece of the fund that the price of everything and then the extra hours that it takes to do that funding, it's just not worth it for our small district to put forth that much effort into that small amount of money. So I just wanted to be open about that. We do not apply for Title III. And then RLIS, the Rural Low Income Schools, this again is only for HPS and HES. We designate that for our 2 Title I schools. This is again based on their enrollment numbers. The percentage will be the same as their Title I funding. And as of right now, things that we're planning is to continue the subscription for the Word curriculum or an online program for vocabulary. Yes, so, and y'all liked that last year, wanted to continue that this year. And then this year we have added on a handwriting curriculum that we're purchasing for 2nd grade. This is something the teachers wanted. Pre-K and K and first get it through foundations, correct, Ms. Clemens? And so this is a separate program that we're going to fund for 2nd grade handwriting, and those books just came, so we're excited about that. And again, we'll have indirect costs. Do you have any more questions?
Angel, you said we don't apply for the Title III?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You have to join a consortium when you do that with other districts, and it's a lot of time and effort for a minute amount of money. And more monitoring.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Next, we have the baseball, softball complex proposed MOU with the Clay County Board of Commissioners. You have a copy of that in your folder.
Yes, members of the board, I provided a copy to you of, we've been working on a memorandum of understanding with the county commissioners on how we would manage the new baseball, softball complex. Obviously in Clay County, we share facilities in a lot of situations, which is really good for saving money for our local taxpayers. But it creates some complexity in who's responsible for what, when. So I think a lot of times in the past we've had a lot of verbal agreements, and then somebody like me comes along, and I wasn't here when those verbal agreements were made, and I don't know who's supposed to do what, and it's not written down anywhere. So with this one, I asked the commissioners to work with us on something in writing that specifies who's responsible for what. Who gets priority of usage at certain times of the year and certain times of the day, because we want to share with our community, but at the same time, our baseball and softball teams need priority access to those fields during baseball and softball season. Now in other parts of the year, maybe not, but definitely during baseball and softball season. So we just thought it would be good to get this in writing. Their lawyer, Miranda Woody, put this together after several meetings that we had to discuss things. This is what she came up with for a memorandum of understanding, and the commissioners approved this at their last meeting. I'm sharing this with you now just for you to take a look at. We will share a copy of this as well on our website, so anybody can take a look at it. I'm not asking you to vote on this tonight. Certainly, you could choose to. You could choose to have it moved to the action agenda. But definitely, I wanted you to have the opportunity to look through it. And you probably already have. So if you have any questions or thoughts, then certainly I'll try to answer those. And if I don't have an answer, then I can get one before the next board meeting. I think we'll be fine not having an MOU in place for September. Probably the only people that would use it would be rec league teams at this point in time in the year. But this does cover both ball fields as well as the multi-use building, which is still under construction. I think this week they were installing the turf. And at that point, they're going to be ready to order 3 batting cages that will be installed inside that could be pushed up against the wall to get them out of the way when they chose. And they're asking the school district to pay for half of those, which I think is reasonable. And so just some of the highlights of this would be that the school district would have priority access to the multi-purpose building as it's written right now from 2:45 until 5:30 Monday through Friday. That is typically when we would use it for after-school practices. And then on the weekends and at any times outside of that, it would be open to the community, and community members could schedule at the recreation department whatever they wanted to use it for. That would not be our part of the management. Our high school athletic director would manage who had access to it or who had reserved it during our block of time each day. The baseball and softball fields themselves are actually all ours, even though the county owns them. They do not plan to give access for those fields to any recreation department activities, except for maybe if they wanted to host a tournament or something like that in the future, a big tournament like an American Legion tournament or something like that, where maybe the county could make a little money off of it or something. Then they might would ask permission to do it at that point. But it's important to remember that the multi-use building was built with different funds than the baseball and softball field. So the multi-purpose building was using a Part-F grant, and that requires it to have community access and to be shared with the community. with reasonable rules and expectations. So you can read through this and let me know if you have questions.
Do we need to, or can we go ahead and say that we're good or okay with ordering those nets so that they'll be here by December, January?
Well, and actually, our part of those nets will be less than $30,000, so I can actually just do it without board approval, but it would be good to hear that y'all approve of that, if you do.
And what about, and I don't know if Coach Cottrell or Mr. Overland has thought of this or have looked at this, but the time from 2:45 to 5:30, making that maybe 1:30ish or 1:45 that would coincide with fourth block PE.
Mr. Overland, what time does fourth block start?
Basically 1:30.
1:30.
Just so that, I mean, that's not a huge amount of time, but that gives us a little bit more time. If it's bad weather, you got soccer, baseball, softball maybe that needs to get in there, or track, baseball, softball, whatever. Just
Shook, I would,
a little bit more time.
that, I was thinking of that too. I thought maybe it needed to be extended more into the school hours.
I mean, I doubt a rec team's going to be in there at
1:30.
1:30 anyhow. I mean, most of those coaches have jobs in there in school, so. But just to be safe, so that.
So you don't have to vote on this or anything, like I said, because this is just a sharing out proposal. But so am I hearing from the majority of the board that you'd like to ask that the MOU be adjusted, that we have access from 1:30 until 5:30, Monday through Friday?
And then,
Of course, the commissioners would have to agree to that,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
and then the nets, I think it would be good to, 'cause it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months.
So if we're gonna have
Yes.
those nets, delivered and installed by January, almost everything right now is like a 3 to 4 month push out, so, yes. Now, I will say that, Mr. Payne, the recreation director, he has one quote, he's waiting on a second quote that he thinks will be about 25% cheaper, and he hasn't contacted me yet on that, so I can't give a solid, like, how much it's gonna cost us yet. Hopefully, the quote will be 25% less.
Yeah.
But, so again, what I'm hearing is, the board is in favor of paying half of the 3 batting cages with the county. So I could go ahead and act on that even without approval okay.
Well, can we do anything about saying if they agree to the terms of the, putting it back to 1:30? And if we agree on it, could we go ahead and approve it now, or do we need to wait till they do approve?
I think I would prefer to pitch that idea and see where we are, and we can always approve it later, at the September meeting. I don't think.
So we're not on the clock here.
We're not on the
clock. We can get it by next month, that'd be good. Yeah. Okay.
But I think in the MOU, she did a good job of clarifying specifics regarding payment of insurance and utilities and things like that and general maintenance. I think that was separated out very
Right.
well.
Well, we wanted to be clear about who, you want to make sure that your facilities are clean before, an away team shows up. You want to make sure the bathrooms are clean. And so if people are using, the facility prior to, and you've got a game that day, we want to know who's responsible for cleaning the bathrooms and getting them ready to go. If it's us, fine, we'll do it, but it's just good to know that up front, who's responsible for what. And, so then if something doesn't get done, you know who's responsible. Everybody's not pointing at one another.
What all is in the multi-purpose building? I have never been in there. I haven't heard anything.
Well, yeah,
That's, my understanding is that it's just an open floor. It's an open space with AstroTurf down, padded AstroTurf. And they're gonna have 3 batting cages that are pushed to the side. There's some office spaces, changing rooms, bathrooms in there, but it's primarily set up to be open so that any sport could go in there and the football team could go in there if they're in a lightning
So it
storm.
doesn't have showers, stuff like that in there?
No, I don't think they put a shower in, but there are toilet facilities, but I don't think there's shower facilities.
I haven't invited the board to, well, it's not our facility for one thing, and I don't have a key to it yet. I will get a key to it, but it's been obviously under construction on the inside. It's designed, so at one end, there are male and female bathrooms, and then at the other end, there are 2 storage rooms. One would be dedicated to Hayesville High School, and the other one on the other side would be dedicated to the recreation department.
Yeah.
So we can keep our equipment separate because equipment is expensive, and stuff that we pay for our students, we want to make sure that we can keep track of it and take care of it, and the recreation department wants to do the same. But the entire floor is AstroTurf. Obviously it's a big high ceiling. We can pull the 3 batting cages out and use them, and then we can push them up against the wall, and we've just got a wide open space, so we can do pitching and catching when it's raining. Soccer can go in there. We can carry the wrestling mat there during wrestling season. That's where we can have wrestling practice, because you can roll the mat out, have wrestling practice, spray it down, clean it up, roll it back up, and put it against the wall. It can just be used for a lot of different things, and also for the rec department. Matter of fact, Mr. Payne has already told me that there were a group of ladies that have asked about having yoga classes and I don't know, aerobics or something in that multi-purpose building, because the recreation department building gets pretty packed and has a jammed schedule. So this is another place where they could go and do that outside of the time that is dedicated to the school system.
So you're going to check on the time frame, and then we'll revisit this in September.
So what I've heard is paying for half of the cages. The board is good with that. So because that's less than $30,000, I can move forward with that anyway. And you would like to check to see if the dedicated time to Clay County Schools could be changed from 2:45 to 1:30. And we'll see what they say, and I'll let the board know, and we can discuss it further in September and hopefully vote on it then.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you for that. The next item is a recommendation to hire a real estate agent to market and sell the foreclosure property that is in Shooting Creek.
Yes.
And you have that policy 9400 is in your handout.
Yeah, that's policy 9400, which deals with how the board can sell, dispose of, and or lease board-owned real property. This is in reference to the property in Shooting Creek that the board received ownership of through foreclosure. I informed the board of that and a copy of the deed at our last meeting, and so now it's kind of like, what next? Again, I'm recommending that we just hire a real estate agent to manage this. If you read the policy, I've highlighted a certain section which says the superintendent should secure the services of consultants as necessary to conduct feasibility assessments and determine the fair market value. No building or land will be sold below the fair market value or exchanged for less than full and fair consideration, except as permitted by law. We're also required in that the board will afford the Board of County Commissioners the first opportunity to obtain any real property at fair market price or a price negotiated between the two boards. I offered that, as I shared with the board, I offered that to the county commissioners before their last meeting. They talked about it and decided that they did not want to purchase that property. So now it's left with us. And there's no reason for us to own that property. I think it would actually be in the best interest of the county for someone private to own that property, because then they would pay taxes on it. We don't pay taxes on ownership. And I don't think we're building a school in Shooting Creek anytime soon. So, and I have no idea how to assess the fair market value of property other than just go to the courthouse and look at what tax value is. I feel like one of our local real estate agents would be a much better person to kind of manage what fair market value is and market it and sell the property. Unless the board would prefer to just put it out at public bid and see what you get offered. That's, I think, another option that you can use. I think we can get the most value by hiring a real estate agent, but that's up to the board.
I would just like to comment that perhaps, since this the property came to us through legal action, putting it in the hands of a realtor would probably give us an arm's length interaction with the process. So that would put us another step away from this. Plus, the fact that a realtor is probably going to look at this and ask for an appraisal, or at least do an assessment on their own to establish a price that would be a reasonable price.
I think that's a good idea.
I do too.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not a real estate guy, so all I know is to go to the courthouse and see what the tax value is, but that isn't necessarily the value of the property. So
Not in its present condition.
And I think Ms. Beck talking about present conditions, something that I don't know if it is a big deal or not that we should think about is maybe some no trespassing signs or something like that, because that house is, 12 years ago when I went up there and looked at it, when this whole process first started, looked like it was about to fall down. So, I would hate for somebody to get up there and wander around and step in it, and then they fall through the floor, and the school owns it, and so I don't know if that's a possibility to stick a couple of no trespassing signs up, or
we could do that.
I think that's wise. For sure.
Could you add that to the note?
So you've heard the recommendation to hire a real estate agent to market this property. Is there a motion that we do that? Mr. Caldwell, is there a second to that?
Second.
Mr. Crawford, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And next item on there is a recommendation to approve the superintendent regulations for existing policies. And those we had on last month as a first read, I guess. And then this month they're there for approval. Those were emailed to you.
And these are just regulations to manage how we carry out already existing policies. So it's not a policy that we're asking approval of it. And I guess technically I don't have to have board approval for regulations to carry out an existing policy, but I just wanted the board to know how I plan to carry those policies out and give you an opportunity to read through it. And I would prefer that you approve the regulations that I'm using. So,
is there any comments or questions about those?
Mr. Chairman, that 5120, I'm just curious, student interviews, contacts with law enforcement, is that similar to how Department of Social Services, or is that in a separate?
Yes. So obviously, juvenile investigations of things maybe that adults have allegedly done can be very sticky situations where maybe law enforcement doesn't want to show up at the house in order to have that interview because it's not a safe place to do that. So typically, what they are supposed to do is to communicate with the principal and the superintendent so that we can schedule that, have a way to pull that kid that is least invasive and the least amount of people know about it, and have a safe space in order for the interview to take place. In which case, if it's a juvenile, either the parent will be there or the principal can serve in loco parentis for the parent during that interview, depending on the situation. However, sometimes people don't follow regulations. I don't think, not on purpose, but sometimes you have inexperienced police officers that maybe don't know exactly how it should be done. So it's important for us to have our own guidelines so that if a detective shows up out of the blue asking to see a kid, Mr. Overland has written guidelines to follow in case I'm not available for him to call and ask if he needs to. So that's the point of having these regulations of, look, this is how it's going to work with our school system, and if it can't work this way, then it's not going to happen.
And along with 5120, I just made a note too that I think in the text there it was saying notify the principal, but I don't remember saying anything about notifying you and the superintendent. So if we could just add that in there, I feel.
Typically,
I feel like they would, but I think if the language is there, there's no question.
Right,
asked.
and typically the principal is gonna contact the superintendent when that happens, but yeah, I take your meaning.
Yeah.
Well, now, is the counselor involved in this, or is that just on certain
Not
other
necess-
items where
Not necessarily.
abuse or something?
It depends on the situation. It depends on the situation and what it involves.
Any other questions or comments? If not, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve those regulations.
Make a motion to approve them with the added, that Kelly had added for it.
Adding the superintendent contact.
With 5120 that,
The wording,
Yeah,
maybe.
that we add, contact the superintendent along with the principal.
Sure.
Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Caldwell, all in favor? Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, which is just the board meeting minutes for July 25th and the August 8th special session.
And I'll just remind the board again, the July 25th regular board meeting was, it was not adjourned, it was recessed so that we could then come back and finish some work. And so you actually got together 3 times between July 25th and August 8th. But July 25th was a regular meeting that was recessed, and then you got back together a week later to finish that meeting. So that's the reason why there are 2 sets of minutes.
Any questions or comments about this? So if not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Ms. Crawford, is there a
No,
second?
second.
Ms. Beck, second. All in favor? Thank you. And next, I will entertain a session,
Motion.
a motion that we go into closed session for personnel and negotiations.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Mr. Jones, is there a second? Ms. Beck, second. Favor? Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Question, will Mr. McKinney's presentation be available to the public?
McKinney's?
Yeah.
Yes.
And how will the public be notified? You said it's for public comment.
Yeah, I can put it
Or
on,
do we have to be the public since we showed up?
typically what we do is we'll share things on the website, Facebook.
Okay, so
I'll
it'll
put
be
it out
public.
there.
I knew when I said
Yeah, that's it.
presentation.